Book 101 review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. He is the author of the book Rise Above the Script, no other than Mr. Albert Bramante.
Thank you, Daniel, for inviting me.
Welcome to Book 101, Mr. Albert, and can you please introduce more about yourself?
Sure. My name is Albert Bramante. I have a background in psychology and hypnosis, and I've also been a talent agent for the past 20 years. And I represent actors on all types of film, TV, theater, commercials, print, and voiceover. And I wrote a book last year called Rise Above the Script, as you mentioned. Thank you for sharing the title. And it deals with actors and self sabotage and confronting self doubt.
So, go ahead, mister.
Yeah, it's been a labor of love. It's been, I've been working on this for a few years now, and I wanted to create a book that helps actors, being in this industry, which can sometimes be a challenge and can sometimes be, unpredictable and chaotic sometimes even. So I wanted to create some tools to help deal with self-doubt and master self-sabotage and fear of success, as well as, just to improve their mindset even.
Mr. Albert Bramante, thank you so much for sharing your rise above the script to the world. So, what does the script represent in the lives of performing artists?
Absolutely. Performing artists, actors, singers, even those that are performing in other aspects like public speaking or giving presentations or going on job interviews, you're still giving some sort of performance.
Hmm.
And so this book is geared towards that, to those people, not just actors, but, the whole scope of performers. And, to put yourself out there every day can be challenging at times.
Certainly. So, how did your own experience with self doubt shape the direction of this book?
Well, I'm fairly transparent and fairly, and open with this, that even I dealt with some self doubt, in publishing this book. For a while I kept hitting, rewrite and edit and rewrite and edit. Almost took me 5 6 years to, get this published, until I just sat down in the middle of 2023 and said, just get it done and, don't stop. And it's the best decision I've ever made. So for me, I am thankful, every day that I didn't give into the self doubt. And so I always tell, even the clients and the actors I work with, to always follow your passion and to always, do what you set out to do, even if it doesn't always pan out in the way that you wanted to, or go, or everything may or may not go in your favor on a daily basis. However, the important thing is you put yourself out there and really move forward.
Certainly. Move forward, people, and let it go. So, why do you think performing artists are especially vulnerable to self sabotage?
Well, there's a lot of work every day that you have to put yourself out there. It's like you're bearing your heart and your soul in performing. And, each day when you're auditioning, you're meeting strangers and you're pouring your heart and soul out. And, there's in this industry, especially in the performing arts industry, there's so much competition that there's going to be more no's than there are yeses, no matter how talented one is. So, there's going to be a lot of no's, and that can often add to this, eventually wear the actor down to the point where they're engaging in self-doubt and self-sabotaging behavior because of that. It just takes a toll on them after a while. And then there's also fear. I talk about this in my book too. We have basic fears of failure, but also there's a fear of success that I think is worth mentioning and discussing, that sometimes is not readily known, and it really boils down to fear of change.
Very
And
well said,
mhm.
Mr. Albert. Very well said. So, who did you write this book for, and what shift do you hope it will create in them?
I really hope that this will create a more proactive stance. Now, as being a mindset, coach and professional, I always will say that this book, while having a good mindset, will not replace the acting training that every actor should get, or any performer should get in the technical aspect of their field. However, by being, having a growth mindset, by being, not engaging in self doubt and self sabotage, you can really put yourself up ahead of the competition by being really the best you can be. Now, again, mindset coaching is not going to make you necessarily a better actor or more talented actor, but it will get you, out of your head so that you can give a much better performance and maximize the fullest potential that you have already within you. So that is what I feel like my hope is to really help each actor be the best actor they can be at their current level.
So, Mr. Albert, let's talk about the confronting self doubt. What are the most common internal scripts you have seen holding artists back?
The I'd say the biggest one is the script of the starving artist or the struggling artist.
Yes.
And I'm not sure how that became part of the vocabulary or lexicon, what have you. But that's what concerns me, is like, why do you have to be struggling? Why do you have to be starving? Because I think if you set those words, you're sending a subconscious message that you're going to be struggling, that you're going to be starving. And therefore, I think that's going to hold you back. So getting rid of that self-talk and replace it with, I'm a professional working actor, or I'm a professional working speaker, or I'm a professional working, performer. Whatever you are a professional. You've trained, you've worked hard, and you deserve to be here. So you should call yourself a professional. And
Certainly.
mhm.
Go ahead, mister.
Yeah, and I was just going to end it with, just treat yourself as such.
Certainly. So, how can someone tell the difference between humility and self doubt?
So humility just, appreciates people for who they are, and admits that they are strong, but that they, can do better and always do better. So always keep learning. Rather than believing that you're inferior, you still believe that you have a chance and have the core set knowledge that you deserve to be here. However, you still, are always learning. So I'm always learning. I have a I have a PhD. I'm always reading. I read, 50, 60 books a year, on average. I listen to a lot of podcasts myself, so that I am always learning. And I think for every actor, even if you have the training, conservatory training, a bachelor's of fine arts or a master's of fine arts, still keep the mindset of that you're always learning.
Yes. Always learn, people. Strive to learn something each day. So, how can artists confront limiting belief without becoming overly self critical?
How could they convert? Well, limiting beliefs without being self-critical is what can you change, what's outside of your control. So focusing on what you can change, and even if you make mistakes in your performance or make mistakes on auditions or interviews, take those mistakes and craft them into learning opportunities.
True. You need to learn from your mistake, people, and
Absolutely.
don't be afraid to commit mistake because this mistake make you better in the future. So, Mr.
100%.
So, Mr. Albert, what's your advice to artists stuck in a comparison or imposter syndrome?
The only well, I always say do not the only person you should compare yourself is to you, not anybody else. Don't be focused on other people's careers. Focus on yourself and compete against yourself only.
Yes,
And take note that if you trained, you deserve to be here. You've invested in yourself. You deserve to be here.
yes. And you always tell to yourself, I'm the head, not the tail. I'm a victor, not a victim. So that
Right, exactly. You're not, and I even talk about this sometimes in the workshops or classes that I teach. Is that separate yourself from the victim versus creator. You're a creator. You're not a victim. You're the creator of your life. You're not the victim of your life.
certainly very well said, Mr. Albert. Beautifully articulated. So, how do you suggest performers build confidence without needing constant external validation?
Well, the way to build confidence is to do your best and to be easy on yourself. Again, if you make mistakes, look at that as a feedback, form of feedback, and we'll also look at other previous successes that you've had. If you booked jobs before, if you've gotten positive feedback before, which you have, I know that anybody
Mhm.
listening has received that. Always remember, connect to that feedback that you received.
Certainly. So let's talk about the mastering self-sabotage, Mr. Albert. What does self-sabotage look like in a performer's life or a career?
Well, it looks like it could come manifest in different ways. Number one, not showing up for auditions, trying to find excuses to not go to auditions, being late to auditions, being unprepared for auditions, especially when you already have the training. And when I was first starting out, this didn't make sense. Like, why are these actors who are telling me that they're hungry for work be taking themselves out of running for a job because of mistakes that they've made? Being unprofessional on set or on stage, or in the interview room or on the job. So there's many ways that can come in, or even sometimes substance abuse issues, which is unfortunately not uncommon in the performing arts industry. So that those are different ways that self sabotage can manifest, and why it's so challenging is that a lot of times this is unconscious yet. The individual may not even realize that this is happening.
So how does fear of success play in the cycle of self-sabotage?
So fear of success is really roots to the fear of change. And when you're successful, especially whether it's again an actor, performer, or even um, a job seeker, let's say you land that job, you land an interview, you land that role, your life may change, will change. Shouldn't say may, it will change because of either a shift in identity, a change in relationships, a change in surroundings. Because maybe a job might require relocation, or that win might require more hours on the job. And what can happen there is there can be limitations with relationships at home that may change. Or sometimes people in your life may be threatened by your success and they may not be approving. And so therefore that rejection alone from people that you love and care about may be too hard to bear. So sometimes playing it safe might mean not getting the job. not getting that opportunity. So how do you protect yourself? You find excuses. You blow up the opportunities that you could have had.
Yes, procrastinating too, people. Stop procrastinating.
Yes, procrastination is a major, I think, epidemic that affects everybody, and it, even in my background, and a lot of research has shown that procrastination is, really rooted in fear and also even in trauma. So that there's that fear of success, and it can come off as procrastination. Like, in other words, procrastination could be a byproduct of fear of success. So, and that sometimes is not even known consciously for anybody to realize that. You may feel that, you work under pressure, or you may not even know why you put things off at the last minute. So this is where self-reflection, honest self-reflection, comes in.
So, Mr. Albert, what are the some strategies for breaking the perfectionism trap?
We want to stay humble, number one. That I would say, going back to humility, realize that we are a work in progress. So we're going to make mistakes, and that's what makes you even human sometimes. And even be able to laugh at your mistakes sometimes is important, because again, it makes you human. And even though you're an actor or performer, you're still a human being. And just being gentle on yourself, and also let it go. One of the things that we often talk about, in our industry, especially after auditions, when the audition or interview is over, when you walk out of that room, let it go. It's out of your control now. Your energy should be focused on, let me now work on getting the next opportunity.
Yes, let it go and live at the moment, people. So let's talk about the tools, practices, and empowerment. What role does rehearsal, not just a performance, but a mindset, play in overcoming doubt?
It takes, well, just like, if rehearsal on a performance side for any task, rehearsal on the mindset is very important, extremely important, because it takes a long time for your brain to rewire itself and to rewire, those pathways for success and for mindset. So I would say at least 30 days minimum of mental rehearsal, for any new belief, for it to really start to take effect. And spending a few minutes a day just doing, affirmations like, I deserve to be here, or every day I'm getting better and better in every way. Yeah, and say that to yourself, at least, 5 or 6 times at, a few times a day. So, like, different times, like almost like you're saying it, like 15 to 20 times a day total, at least.
At
Just
least.
so that it becomes a habit and becomes a mind, eventually wired into your brain.
Yes, it will materialize. So, mindset, people, mindset. So, how can performing artists maintain their mental health in such a high pressure field?
Two reasons. One, always visualize success. So before an audition, before a even on a job, whether even if they got the job, before they go to work, always visualize success themselves running through the performance, and it being a huge success, because the brain does not know the difference between fiction and reality. That's the first thing. The second thing, a more practical thing to do, is to develop hobbies and passions outside of acting. Several of my clients, are big into yoga or, mind body. Some do animal rights activism or environmental activism. So the important thing is to have some passions and interests that are outside the performing arts.
Certainly. People I visualize to be number one on Padmatch. And it did. I'm now number one podcast on Padmatch last month. And I want to maintain that momentum. So, Mr. Albert, what's your take on the relationship between vulnerability and artistic strength?
They're highly related. And this is something for actors because most performers and actors are empaths, having a strong empathy component. That's what helps them to connect to the characters they're playing because they will often feel empathy or connected. And also, a lot of times with performances, in order for performance to be really good, the actor and performer has to really dig in deep to themselves. And sometimes, if their character, experiences trauma, it may remind them of the trauma that they own personally experience as human beings. And so that can sometimes be activated during performance because you're bearing your soul out there. And I think the that's what the downside will like a lot of actors sometimes go down dark paths, with substance abuse, alcohol as a way to cope because sometimes they go a little too far with being vulnerable. Because you're playing sometimes a character for months on end if you're on stage or even filming that we have to find the ability to turn that off. And that's something I'm trying to work with, is finding ways to turn that off, still be able to give that performance, but also at the same time turn it off so that when you're not, on when you're being on set or on camera, that it doesn't affect you long term.
So, Mr. Albert, what would be advice for those artists out there who want to rise above the script?
Number one, believe in yourself. Always remember your success and remember the why. Why are you doing this? And most of the time it's because you enjoy performing or you enjoy bringing characters to life. Stay true to that. Always remember why you're doing this. So I would say know your why. That
Definitely. Know your why,
Mhm.
for sure. So, thank you for your advice, Mr. Albert. And what will be your short term and long term goals in writing?
So my short-term goals is to create more like short form articles, for like social media, like Substack or LinkedIn. Long-term goals, a couple more books, within the next 2 years. So by like the end of 2026, my goal is to have at least two more books.
Good luck to your goals, Mr. Albert, and we are looking for more and more and more empowering books like this to come. So, what's
Thank you.
one daily ritual or mental reset you recommend to your readers?
I would say connect to your happy place, connect to your happy file in the sense. So look at your journal every time. Keep a journal of all the good things that happened to you, good reviews, good, compliments that you received, and always look at that every day.
Definitely. So before we wrap up our discussion for today, Mr. Albert, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, Music 101, in its third season, People third season with Mr. Jim Smith. Please do listen to our latest episode. We are talking about the covers of the Beatles itself. So please do listen, Music 101, wherever you listen your podcast. So, Mr. Albert, if someone finishes your book and still feels afraid, what would you say to them?
I think number one, would commend you to be honest with yourself. So that's great that you're honest about that because we're all at somewhat, I think, dealing with fear on different levels. So first of all, thank you for your honesty. Thank you for validating that, and I hear you. And I think that would be the first thing is just to validate. The second thing is again, just be connect. Remember why you're here, and that it's okay to be, have a little bit of fear. That's what makes us human. And
Certainly.
then work with a coach if it comes to a point where it may be paralyzing.
Yes. As for Mr. Albert, I think he's coaching too. So, Mr. Albert Bramante, thank you so much for sharing Rise Above the Streets to the world. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your book?
Absolutely, you can visit my website and my Instagram. Thank you.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. Albert Bramante because you support him more and more and more empowering books like this to come. So, Mr. Albert, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Daniel.
More to come, people. See you soon.